Okay, so right off the bat, we're diving into some pretty wild news coming out of Canada.
Wild is right.
Yeah, so it seems like Prime Minister Justin Trudeau might actually be stepping down.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
big news.
big news indeed. We've got this article from Vanguard NGR.com. It was published just a few days ago, January 2nd, 2025.
Uh-huh.
And it claims that Trudeau is going to announce his resignation this week.
Yeah, that's huge.
So no more quiet start to the new year, I
I
guess.
know, right? It feels like the political ground just shifted under our feet.
Exactly. The article doesn't say much more than that the announcement is expected sometime this week.
Right.
So it really is like we're all just waiting with bated breath to see what happens next.
Yeah, it's a bit of a cliffhanger.
It is. So, I mean, is there anything you can think of that might have hinted at this in recent events? Or was this just completely out of the blue?
Well, you know how it is with politics. There's always stuff going on behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right. So while this might seem super sudden, there have been, some rumblings here and there.
Okay, interesting.
Like, remember those energy sector disputes in Alberta a while back?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Trudeau's stance on climate change and those pipeline projects. I mean, it caused some friction, not just with certain provinces, but also within his own party.
Right, right. All those protests and the calls for more autonomy for the provinces.
Exactly. It definitely adds another layer to this whole situation.
It does, for sure. And what about those by-election losses for the Liberal Party recently? Could that have played a role?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, those results might have been a sign that public opinion was starting to turn,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
Maybe putting a bit more pressure on Trudeau's leadership.
So maybe not a total shock then,
Yeah.
but definitely still a massive shakeup.
Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned tension within his party. So if he does step down, who do you think stands to gain the most from all of this? Which political figures or factions are going to come out on top?
That's the question, isn't it? The race to replace Trudeau is probably going to be pretty intense.
Yeah, I bet.
We've got Chrystia Freeland, the current deputy prime minister. She's a strong contender, popular, and a lot of people see her as a capable leader. But
Right.
there's also a whole more conservative wing of the Liberal Party.
Okay.
They might try to push for someone who, more closely aligns with their views.
So a real internal power struggle could be brewing.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Wow. Okay. So what about everyday Canadians? How do you think this is all going to play out for them?
Well, it depends who ends up taking over, right? We could see some major policy changes depending on who the new leader is.
Interesting.
If a more pro-business leader emerges, we might see a rollback of some of Trudeau's environmental regulations. And, I mean, that could affect everything: energy prices, job creation in certain sectors.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
But could you maybe give us some more concrete examples of how this might impact everyday life for Canadians?
Sure. Think about healthcare. Trudeau's government has been working towards national pharmacare, right?
Right.
A new leader might not be as invested in that depending on their priorities. Or consider social programs. Someone who's more fiscally conservative might prioritize reducing the deficit over increasing spending on social services.
So even though it all seems very political on the surface,
Yeah,
it can actually have a direct impact on people's lives.
exactly. Politics always affects people's lives one way or another.
And what about Canada's position on the world stage?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, Trudeau really cultivated this specific image for Canada. A progressive voice on things like climate change and social justice.
Right.
So could this change in leadership affect that?
Absolutely. A new leader could signal a whole shift in Canada's foreign policy priorities, how they engage with global issues.
Wow, so much is up in the air right now.
Yeah, it's a pretty pivotal moment.
It is.
Mm.
This whole thing has really thrown Canadian politics for a loop. Potential power struggles, policy shifts, and even Canada's global role is uncertain.
Yeah.
It's amazing how one announcement can have so many potential ramifications.
It really shows you how interconnected everything is.
It does. So we've got this huge announcement about Trudeau potentially resigning.
Right.
It's raised a ton of questions and possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Really underscores how important it is to stay informed and engaged, because even in a country like Canada, where things seem pretty stable, the political landscape can shift dramatically overnight.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So what stands out to you as the biggest unknown going forward?
That's a tough one. I think the biggest question mark is what this means for Canada's role in tackling global challenges like climate change.
Okay.
Will Canada remain a leading voice on those issues? Or will we see a retreat from those commitments? It's something to keep an eye on as the story develops.
Definitely. This deep dive has given us a lot to think about. We'll be following this story closely as it unfolds.
Me too. It's going to be interesting to see what happens next.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, well, thanks for joining me for this deep dive into Canadian politics.
My pleasure. Always happy to chat about this stuff.
And to all our listeners out there, stay tuned for more updates and analysis as this story continues to develop.
Yeah, stay tuned.
It's going to be a wild ride.
I have a feeling it will.
All right, until next time.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.